reference of this video, I'm using the following leagues with the following database to find this staff and players. What's going on, everybody? Jamie here from FM Scout. Today I am bringing you a brand new episode. Today we are going to be talking about head of youth development, So we're going to bring you the top 20 ahead of youth development, the guys you'll see on this area. Let me just show you quickly. So if you go to this bit and then go to responsibilities right at the bottom, so you see the youth development thing right here. You'll see bring youth players into the club and inform you of their development. So your head of youth is probably the most important aspect of your intake. Okay, so obviously it depends on nation rating and that kind of stuff, but the idea is to have the best head of youth possible, so he brings in the best intakes possible. That's the idea. It's all based on their personality on top of, you know, the stats as well. So always make sure that this is always set to the head of youth development. So as you can see, I am currently at Real Madrid. The idea behind this is I'm going to just transfer some of my money into wages, just so we can kind of bid for the staff, sorry. So I'm going to transfer all that into wages, so it gives me 950,000. So the idea behind it is we'll go through the head of youths, we'll give you an idea what kind of club they will join. So obviously us being Real Madrid, most of them should join us, and you can kind of see the wages they're going to go with as well, but some of them may not, so we're going to go into it. So getting into it right now, the first head of youth is Hermann Gerland at Bayern Munich. Now this guy will not join you because he's got a really good relationship with the manager. The only way you will probably get this guy, I mean, looking at his stats, let's look at his stats first. So he's got 20 working with youngsters, 17 judging potential, which is great. So he's on 7.25k per week until 2019. So looking at his information, he is driven as well, so he is probably one of the best head of youths in the game as it stands. So, you know, going forward from that, you kind of want to just maybe check Bayern Munich out and just kind of see if, you know, the Bayern Munich manager leaves, because if you try and go for a contract for him, I'm not currently interested in entering contract discussions. I enjoy a strong relationship with their manager at Bayern right now. I will not be prepared to give that up in order to move to Real Madrid. So, you know, Real Madrid is the biggest club, the biggest rep team on the game, and he doesn't want to join because he's got a good relationship with the manager at the moment. So the only way of really getting this guy is if Jupp Heynckes actually leaves Bayern Munich. So it's always worth checking and maybe adding them to your list, a social list, just to see if he does leave. So that is the first player. Moving on to player number 2, we've got Neil Bath at Chelsea. So Neil Bath is 51 years old, decent age, 10,000 a week, quite a high wage. He's got 20 working with youngsters, 16 judging player potential, 15 judging ability as well. His personality is currently fairly determined, which is pretty okay, you know. If we try and go for this guy, we can actually offer him a contract, and he's wanting around 13.5k per week. So it's also going to cost you 2.1 million. Bear that in mind, you have to pay compensation for these players. So these players are only really for the guys who's made it into the Premier League or one of the big teams in the Champions League. You know, 2.1 million is, it sounds like a lot of money, but if you've got some money left over after a transfer or you sell unwanted players, it's a great way to bring some of these in. These guys will last a lot longer than the players will, obviously, unless they get stolen from you. But if you can form a good relationship with your head of youth, you know, you get the same message as I've tried to go for that guy at Bayern Munich. So this is Neil Bath. Going on to number 3, we've got Roberto Summer Dan. This guy is currently at Inter Milan, so he's on 7.5k a week. He's got 20 judging player potential, 19 ability, and he's got 20 working with youngsters, which is absolutely fantastic. Only 51 years old as well. He's got a few more years in him. Looking at his information, he is currently fairly determined as well. So if we approach to sign, this guy is willing to join us for 9.75k per week. This guy is going to cost us 1.2 million. So slightly better than the deal at Chelsea. So yeah, this is Roberto Summer Dan. Moving on to number 4, we've got Bernhard Peters. This guy at Hamburger is 57 years old, 3.6k per week, 20 working with youngsters, judging player potential of 18, judging player ability of 15. So if we try to look at his information, we've got model professional, which is apparently one of the best in the game actually. You guys might have to let me know if we've got any youth intake crazy people who love youth intakes, you know. Let me know what you think the best personality is for bringing youth intakes in. Some people say it's determined, some people say it's driven, some people also say it's model professional. To be honest, I don't know if it's just completely random, but this guy's willing to join us on 7.75k per week, and is only going to cost us 190k in compensation because his contract is ending very soon. So this guy is a very good youth intake to bring in if you are one of the bigger clubs. Definitely consider this guy. Moving on to number 5, we have got John Mcdermott at Tottenham. 50 years old, is on 5k per week, 3.5-star rep. He's got 18 working with youngsters, 16 judging potential, 17 judging player ability. Looking at his information, he is fairly determined as well, which is absolutely great. Looking at if we try and sign him, so this guy isn't actually interested in joining us. He's got a strong relationship with Pochettino, so you know it's a very similar thing to the first guy we've seen. If Pochettino does leave Tottenham, it's a great chance to, you know, this guy might leave with him and is a free transfer, and he might join you, or he might stay and you might be able to get him because he's got no longer a relationship with Pochettino. So that is John Mcdermott. Moving on to number 6, we've got Filippo Gulley, head of youth at Milan. This guy's on 5.25k, 18 working with youngsters, 18 potential and 16 ability, so very, very good. In terms of his information, he is a model professional as well. Looking at his contract, he is willing to join us on 7.5 grand a week, which is very, very good, and he's willing to join on a 4-year contract at 275k. So, you know, not that expensive when you think about it. You know, all the money that these big teams have got, and to get one of the best head of youths in the game for 275k is pretty impressive. The next guy we're going to look at is Alex Inglethorpe. I said Axel then. Alex Inglethorpe at Liverpool. So this guy is currently at Liverpool, 12k per week, a very high wage. 20 working with youngsters though, 16 potential and 12 ability. Looking at his information, he is currently resolute. So we've got a few different personalities in this list, which is good, so you can decide on the kind of personality you like as well. He is willing to join us on 16 grand a week, including a 3.1 million compensation. I think it's a little bit overpriced. Obviously, if you try and go for the guys before these, if this is the only guy left, it's probably worth doing it. You know, after all, he is one of the great head of youths. So that is Alex Inglethorpe. Moving on to number 8 at Pablo Blanco. So Pablo Blanco is currently at Sevilla. This guy is working with youngsters of 20, judging player potential 20, and judging player ability of 18. So looking at his information as well, model professional. I doubt he's willing to join. He is willing to join on £8,000 per week. 1.3 million compensation. You know, it's okay. It's pretty decent. I mean, there's obviously better options out there, but I would still go for this guy. You know, he's got great working with youngsters, and potential is 20 as well. So this guy is 65. That's his only downside. He's only got a few more years. Moving on to number 9 at Stefano Bragin at Juventus. This guy has got 17 working with youngsters, 53 years old, 3.3k per week, and he is on 18 player potential and 17 player ability. So looking, if we try to sign him, he is willing to join, £7,750 per week on a 4-year contract at 700k compensation. So this is Stefano Bragin at number 9. Moving on to number 10 at Vincenzo Vergini. I'm going to say Vincenzo Vergini, maybe. This guy is at Fiorentina. He's got 18 working with youngsters, 5.5 grand a week pretty much, 18 judging player potential, 16 judging player ability as well, so that's pretty decent. If we look at his information, he is currently fairly determined. If we try and bid for him, he wants 7.5 grand a week, 1.1 million compensation, so yeah, not too bad. Moving on to number 11 now, Jose Lucio Iriarty. I've probably completely butchered that, I'm afraid. But this guy is, just call him Lukey. He is a head of youth at Real Sociedad. He has got 11 working with youngsters, 18 judging player potential, 17 judging player ability. Looking at his information, he is fairly determined as well. If we try and bid for him, he's willing to join on 8,000 pretty much a week and 925k compensation. So, you know, not too bad at all. His rep is slightly lower, so he will join more teams. Number 12 is Pedro Holmes. This guy is the head of youth at Benfica. He's 65 years old, 2.5-star rep, 18 working with youngsters, 18 player potential and 17 player ability. Looking at his information, he is a professional. So, you know, we've had a few model professionals. This is the first time we've seen a professional one. Looking at if we approach to sign, this guy is not willing to join. I've only just joined and I feel it would be inappropriate for me to consider a move elsewhere this soon. So this guy has just moved to Benfica. So, you know, maybe next season you can have a look at signing him. He won't join just yet. Moving on to number 13, you got Brian Klug at Ipswich, I believe. Yes, at Ipswich. This guy's got 20 working with youngsters, 15 ability and 15 potential. So this guy is currently in the Championship. So you've got a great chance if you're a team like Swansea or someone like that. You know, Swansea are currently after him at the moment. So this guy, if we look at his information, he is professional. On terms of his contract, his contract runs out at the end of the season. So the compensation is really, really low. It's only 130 grand, 3.8k per week as well. A great head of youth if you're a lower league Premier team. Moving on to number 14, you've got Wim Junk. This guy is currently at is a free transfer. So if you are looking to save on the spending the money, this guy is a free transfer. 17 working with youngsters, 17 potential, 16 ability. This guy is currently wanted by Porto and Sporting. If you approach to sign him, he wants 5.5 grand a week, 4-year contract, and obviously no compensation. So as a free transfer, man, that is absolutely incredible. Going on to number 15 now, Frederic Shroff. This guy is currently at RB. He's got 20 working with youngsters, 18 potential, 16 ability. He has got a contract for another 3 years though. He's 3-star rep, 62 years old. Looking at his information, he is currently a professional. Looking at if we approach to sign him, he is willing to join us on 6k per week and 550k compensation. Moving on to number 16 now. The next one is Helmut Jungheim. This guy is right here at Leverkusen, 20 working with youngsters, 17 potential, 17 ability, 57 years old, 2.5-star rep. Information wise, professional. Looking if we try and sign him, he wants 6 grand a week, 750k compensation. Moving on to number 17, Mauro Bianchesi. I'm sorry if there's any Italians here, maybe. 53 years old, 3.5-star rep, 17 potential, 15 ability, and 16 working with youngsters. Looking at his information tab, he is also a professional. And if we approach to sign, he has only just joined Lazio, so again, you may have to wait another season and see what he wants. Moving on to number 18, Lars Rickon at Dortmund. This guy is 40 years old, so he's quite young, you know. 17 potential, 19 working with youngsters, and 14 ability. 2.5-star rep, £6,750 per week on a contract which is another 4 years. So the compensation might be a little bit higher. If we approach to sign, you're looking at 1.4 million. He wants 9.5k pretty much. But that is Lars Rickon. Look, the next one is Luis Vicente Mathieu at Valencia. This guy is 17 working with youngsters, 17 on both of them, which is good. 7.5 grand pretty much. 1.5-star rep, which is quite low actually. Only 31. So 31 is very young, of course. He wants 11k per week though at a 1.1 million comp. So yeah, not too bad. And finally, moving on to number 20, Frederic Messara. This guy right here is at Jiangsu in China. 16 working with youngsters, 18 on both, which is pretty good. Only on £375 per week, so considered a bargain if you can get this guy. I mean, 3.5-star rep, I think, is pretty much one of the highest we've seen. If we try and approach to sign him, though, he currently is not interested because he's only just joined, so maybe someone to look at in the future or next season. You know, 375, I imagine he'll only want about 3k per week, something like that. But that has been the end of the episode. Please let me know in the comments if you've enjoyed this. Obviously, let me know if there is any more head of youths that we've missed, so other people looking at the video can maybe look for a few more if they are maybe in a lower league championship team or a lower league Premier League team. Please do let me know in the comments. This has been Jamie. I will see you all next time.